concrete tanks, chained schedules, applause from the crowd. For trainers, life alongside a captive orca is both routine and risky. They touch, guide, and trust predators built to dominate the oceans. But when that trust breaks, the results are catastrophic. In this video, we follow 3 true stories of orcas attacking the trainers who worked with them, dragged beneath the surface, caught in seconds, and leaving a trail of fear and blood that audiences could not unsee. He had worked with orcas for years, trusted them, loved them, but in one terrifying moment everything changed, and what happened next was caught on camera. This is the shocking attack on Ken Peters.
A SeaWorld trainer is recovering today after a terrifying ordeal in front of a horrified audience.
It was just another sunny afternoon at SeaWorld San Diego. On November 29, 2006, veteran trainer Ken Peters prepared for a routine performance in front of a live audience. The star of the show, a 7,000-pound killer whale named Kasatka, a 30-year-old female and one of SeaWorld's most prized performers. Ken had worked with her for over a decade. They had history, trust. She was considered reliable, experienced, and predictable. But beneath her calm surface, something was brewing. The crowd settled in, music played. Ken entered the water. Kasatka followed. Their movements were synchronized, Ken diving under her belly, Kasatka lifting him gently with her rostrum. A choreography of trust, honed over the years, rehearsed, polished, and seamless, until it wasn't. Just minutes into the show, Kasatka's body language shifted. She started circling. Her vocalizations grew louder, piercing bursts of echolocation that didn't match her usual cadence, shrill, uneven, tense. Then, without warning, she dived and took Ken with her. If you're starting to sense that something isn't right, you're not alone. Like the video, share it, and subscribe, because what comes next isn't just rare. It's been buried. It's about more than just one attack, more than just one boat. It's about an entire industry built on silence, where the real danger doesn't scream, it whispers. And by the time you hear it, it's already too late. At first, the audience thought it was part of the act, a dramatic dive, a suspenseful pause. But seconds ticked by, then a full minute, still underwater.
Let him go, picked him up, took him down again.
People began to murmur. Parents looked around nervously. Ken wasn't surfacing. In the control room, the staff was in a state of panic. On the video, you can hear someone on the radio. "Get ready to send someone in, now." Kasatka had clamped down on Ken's foot, and she wasn't letting go. Underwater, he was being pulled deeper and deeper, more than 30 feet below the surface. Visibility was low, communication impossible. He tried to stay calm, controlled his breathing. Years of training were now the only thing keeping him alive. When they finally surfaced, over a minute later, Ken managed a breath. But Kasatka wasn't finished. She dove again, harder this time, and for longer. This attack wasn't random, it wasn't new. Kasatka had a history, one that SeaWorld knew about. Back in 1993, she had lunged at a trainer during a performance, grabbing his arm and dragging him across the pool. No serious injuries were reported. But that wasn't the only red flag. In private sessions, she had shown signs of agitation, sudden lunges, unusual vocal patterns. Trainers reported her being moody, especially when her calf, Takara, was nearby. Mood swings, unpredictable behavior, repeated refusals to perform basic commands. But SeaWorld kept her in the rotation. She was a crowd favorite, and Ken Peters was considered one of the best. Still, that day, even he was caught off guard. Kasatka wasn't just playing rough, she was making a statement. If you're stunned by this attack so far, just wait. What Ken survives next is almost too brutal to believe. And if you want to see how deep this silence really goes, like the video, subscribe, and stay with us. By now, Ken had been dragged under 3 separate times, each one longer, each one deeper. But he didn't panic. He didn't thrash or scream. He kept his arms tucked in, avoided eye contact. Every movement he made was strategic. He knew Kasatka could sense his heartbeat and feel his tension. If he fought back, if he resisted, it could trigger something far worse. When they surfaced again, he tried to calmly signal the control team. Kasatka allowed it. But the moment he began swimming toward the edge, she struck again. Grabbing his foot once more, she yanked him under with terrifying speed. This time she held him at the bottom. Trainers watching later estimated he was submerged for over 70 seconds. The video shows bubbles rising, no movement. Then, suddenly, he's released. He floats to the top, gasping, bleeding from his foot. And yet, somehow he's still composed. It's easy to blame Kasatka. But the truth is far more complicated. Kasatka was born in the wild, captured in Iceland in 1978 when she was just a calf. She never saw her family again. For 28 years, she had lived in tanks, performing tricks for food, giving birth in captivity, and being shuffled around different SeaWorld facilities. Isolated, artificially confined, cut off from natural rhythms. Experts now believe that whales like Kasatka experience profound psychological stress in captivity. And when those stresses reach a boiling point, they lash out. This wasn't mindless aggression. It was frustration. It was trauma. It was a warning. After nearly 10 minutes of struggle, trainers managed to get a stretcher into the pool. Ken saw his chance. He made one final swim, broken foot and all, toward the side of the tank. Kasatka let him go. He was rushed to the hospital with deep puncture wounds, a broken metatarsal, and hypothermia. But he survived, miraculously. SeaWorld quietly cancelled the rest of the show that day. No press release, no public statement, just silence. Ken Peters wasn't the only trainer to suffer. And Kasatka, she would go on to live for another 11 years in captivity. The footage of the attack was kept from the public for years. Only later, during the OSHA investigation into SeaWorld after Dawn Brancheau's death, did it surface. And when it did, it shocked the world. Ken Peters never blamed Kasatka. He testified in court that he understood the risks, but he also admitted, quietly, solemnly, that things needed to change.
I think if anybody came here and saw how we interact with the whales and see how the whales are treated, they would realize that these guys live fun and stimulating lives.
Kasatka died in 2017 from a bacterial infection. She had spent nearly 4 decades in concrete tanks. And Ken, he never returned to water work. They say trainers know the risks. These whales love their handlers, that attacks are rare. But the truth, when a 7,000-pound predator snaps, there's no warning, only silence. Then the water turns red. Kasatka's violent outburst was terrifying, but it was only the beginning. Years earlier, another victim would face a different kind of horror in the same tanks.
27-year-old man found dead in a killer whale's tank at SeaWorld.
He was not detected by the night watch trainers.
Nobody knew until the morning that there was a body in there.
In July 1999, SeaWorld staff found something horrifying. A naked man was floating on the back of a killer whale. No alarms had gone off. No one knew he was even in the park. This is the disturbing story of Daniel Dukes and the orca that may have killed him. Daniel Patrick Dukes was 27 years old when he died. A quiet drifter from Riviera Beach, Florida, Daniel didn't live a conventional life. He had no steady job, no fixed address. He traveled alone, hitchhiking with nothing but a backpack and a journal. But behind his wandering was a deep belief in something spiritual. He was obsessed with nature, especially whales. He believed orcas were more than animals. To him, they were ancient souls, capable of connection, of meaning, of teaching. He wrote about them often. Some who knew him said he was mentally unstable, Others thought he was just deeply introspective. But no one expected what he would do. In the summer of 1999, Daniel entered SeaWorld Orlando during normal operating hours. Security cameras saw nothing unusual. He moved with the crowd, stood in line, watched the orca shows, but he had no intention of leaving. As the park shut down that night, Daniel hid. Some believe he waited in a restroom near Shamu Stadium. Others think he snuck backstage into a storage area. But one thing is certain. When the lights went out, Daniel Dukes remained inside, and just yards away from his hiding spot swam one of the most dangerous orcas in captivity, Tilikum. If stories like this make you question what really goes on behind the scenes, don't forget to like this video, subscribe and tap the bell. These aren't just animal stories, they're warnings. Tilikum was no ordinary whale. He was captured as a calf in the icy waters of Iceland in 1983, torn from his pod, separated from his mother, and shipped to Sealand of the Pacific in Canada. There, he was confined to small tanks and bullied by two dominant female orcas. For long stretches, he was kept in pitch-black underwater pens, barely able to move. This early trauma would shape his future. In 1991, a young trainer named Kelty Byrne slipped into the orca tank. Witnesses said the whales pulled her under repeatedly. She drowned. Tilikum was one of the 3 whales involved. Sealand shut down, and Tilikum was sold to SeaWorld Orlando. There, he became the largest orca in captivity, over 22 feet long and 12,000 pounds. But despite his size, Tilikum was rarely used in close contact performances. Trainers didn't swim with him. He was unpredictable. Instead, he was kept in isolation for long hours and used for breeding. He sired over 20 calves, but his mental health deteriorated. Experts later diagnosed signs of zoochosis, a psychological breakdown caused by extreme confinement. By the time Daniel approached the tank in July 1999, Tilikum was already a ticking time bomb. Investigators believe Daniel stripped down voluntarily. His clothes were found folded neatly near the pool, nothing torn, no sign of panic. He likely climbed onto the platform above the water and quietly entered the tank. And then, silence. No screams, no splashes, no alarms. Security never noticed. Trainers didn't hear a thing. The next morning, a SeaWorld employee arrived just after sunrise. What they saw stopped them cold. Floating across the surface of the water was a lifeless, naked man draped across the back of the killer whale. Tilikum swam slowly, carrying the body in circles. Some staff screamed, others froze. A call to 911 was placed within minutes. "There's a man on Tilikum's back. He's naked. Somebody call 911. Tilikum was quickly isolated using gates and led into a medical pool. But the scene left behind was unforgettable.
One of the employees, I don't know if it was a physical therapist or somebody, was coming in the morning, and there was Tilikum, a dead naked guy on his back, kind of parading him around.
The man had no ID, no wallet, just bruises, abrasions, and bite marks. His body was pale, waterlogged, and his arms dangled limp across Tilikum's back like a forgotten doll. Hours later, fingerprints confirmed the man was Daniel Dukes. Captivity changes animals, and sometimes it kills people. If you believe wild creatures don't belong in tanks, leave a like, share this story, and subscribe to help bring the truth to the surface. The autopsy was disturbing. The cause of death was drowning. There were no signs of a struggle before he entered the water, no broken bones, no external bleeding, but there was post-mortem trauma. Tilikum had mouthed the body after death, leaving deep tooth marks and bruises. Most shocking of all, one of Daniel's testicles was missing. It had likely been bitten off while the whale carried him in its mouth. Whether it was curiosity, stress, or aggression, no one could say.
Tilikum stripped him, bit off his genitals. There was bite marks all over his body.
But Tilikum's behavior had turned grim. SeaWorld immediately went into damage control. They claimed Daniel had trespassed, that he had bypassed security, climbed fences, and entered a restricted area marked with danger signs. Daniel's family sued SeaWorld for negligence. They argued that no one should be able to sneak into a marine park overnight and access a killer whale tank. That the Orca, already linked to one death, should have been more carefully guarded. The press latched on. Why weren't the tanks covered at night? Why wasn't Tillicum retired after Kelty Byrne's death? Why was a 12,000-pound predator still performing? Public pressure mounted. Former SeaWorld trainers began to speak out. Documentaries like Blackfish would later expose the industry's dark side, and Tillicum would become the face of it all. Tillicum wasn't done. In 2010, he was involved in a third death, that of senior trainer Dawn Brancheau during a live show. Only after that tragedy was he removed from public performances. He spent his final years in isolation, slowly circling a back tank away from the cheering crowds. He died in 2017 after more than 3 decades in captivity. And Daniel, he remains the most mysterious figure in Tillicum's story, a man seeking connection, purpose, maybe even peace, who walked into SeaWorld as a tourist and never walked out. He left nothing behind, no explanation, just silence.
Yeah, all I can comment on is that the guy definitely jumped in the wrong pool.
Some believe he underestimated the danger, others think he welcomed it. Maybe he saw Tillicum not as a threat, but as something divine. Whatever the truth, the outcome was the same. A man dead, a whale circling beneath the surface, and a park that was never the same again. Daniel Dukes didn't die performing. He wasn't a trainer, he wasn't supposed to be there. He left no note behind, just folded clothes and questions that will never be answered. Daniel Dukes' tragic death revealed the hidden danger of Tillicum, but it was only part of a larger story. Years later, another trainer would face a far more shocking attack in the same concrete tanks.
911, what's your emergency?
Help! The orca attacked her! Come fast!
Smiling, waving, routine. Then, the violent splash. A scream cut short, the chilling sound of tearing, dragged beneath the surface, gripped by a killer whale. Tillicum, no accident, but a living nightmare.
The ongoing battle over the video showing the death of the trainer killed by a whale at SeaWorld. That controversial video is now at the center of a very public court case.
Witnesses remember the sudden, violent spray, a geyser signaling chaos, the piercing scream that shattered the sunny afternoon. Then, an unnatural silence. Heavy, bone-chilling. The orca's massive head breached, water sluicing off black and white. In his jaws, Dawn Brancheau, Limpio. The pristine pool water churned crimson. Crowds froze, paralyzed. Some fumbled for phones, a morbid reflex. Others stood statue still, disbelief locking their limbs. What were they witnessing? An attack? A rescue gone wrong?
In 2010, trainer Dawn Brancheau died when the whale pulled her under and she drowned.
If you think you know where this ends, you don't. Not yet. Make sure to like and subscribe, as the truth lies deeper than the pool Tillicum was caged in. Trainers had worked with Tillicum for years. They knew his staggering size, the largest orca ever held captive. They knew his terrifying power. And they knew his bloody history.
By the time I had gotten there, Tillicum, the whale, had Dawn, he had Dawn in his mouth, holding on to her.
2 deaths already stained his record. A drifter, Daniel Dukes, was found naked, lifeless, and draped across his back in a Canadian marine park. Ruled an accidental drowning. Was it? A trainer, Kelty Byrne, was found dead inside Tillicum's tank at SeaWorld Orlando, naked, bruised, and mutilated. Drowning. Or was it something more? Warnings were written. Internal reports flagged his aggression and his unpredictable nature under stress. But the multi-million-dollar show went on. The tanks stayed open. The performances dazzled crowds. And Tillicum, he wasn't just performing, he was learning. Every cheer from the bleachers. Did it sound like prey? Every trainer's gesture? Was it a challenge? Every slip, every moment of vulnerability? He was watching, not trained, studying, calculating, waiting for the perfect moment. How long had he planned this? What was the final trigger? That day, a picture-perfect Orlando afternoon. The stadium was packed. Dawn, experienced and trusted, knelt at the pool's edge. Her hand brushed the water's surface, a connection. And in one brutal, lightning-fast lunge, she was gone, snatched, dragged down into the blue void.
At that point, it looked like sort of her torso because I could see her head. Okay. And I could also see that her hair was missing. Okay.
Beneath the surface, Tilikum held her, not playfully, possessively, pulling her deeper, away from air, away from help, spinning her, a violent, dizzying whirl, again and again and again. Was this punishment, a game, or something far more chilling? If you like what you're seeing so far, don't just watch, like, subscribe, because what happens next is bound to haunt you. For 35 agonizing minutes, the underwater struggle raged. Staff scrambled in panic, nets deployed, lifelines thrown. Deafening emergency whistles pierced the air, desperate banging on the tank walls, but he wouldn't release her. His grip was iron, his movements deliberate. It wasn't a frenzied attack, no blind rage. It was methodical, purposeful, calculated, almost ritualistic. Her injuries told the horrifying story the park tried to bury. Scalp torn away, arm severed, ribs shattered, spine fractured, injuries incompatible with a quick death. A story of prolonged suffering too brutal to show on screen, yet every ghastly detail is seared into the memories of those who watched helplessly. What did they see that the cameras missed? The official reports were clinical, chilling, but the real evidence, the raw footage, remains locked away, sealed by corporate decree or legal maneuvering, out of public sight, perhaps forever. Why? What's on that tape they're so desperate to hide? Who decided the world shouldn't see the full horror Tilikum inflicted? What were they protecting?
The risk is simply too high to allow these videos to be released to the public. The internet has changed things, and there are individuals who will do disturbing things with these videos.
Interviews with former trainers peel back the glossy park facade, revealing a culture of deep-seated fear. A corporate machine obsessed with profit and image, silencing safety concerns. Warnings about Tilikum's volatility, dismissed. Near misses, buried in internal memos. Risks, ignored, until blood stained the water. How many close calls were there? How many whispers were silenced?
The issue before this court is what happens to those records when they are through with their job.
Tilikum wasn't just any orca. He was a genetic goldmine, forcibly bred relentlessly, his sperm used worldwide. He was the star attraction, a ticking time bomb in a concrete prison. Experts labeled him unpredictable, a convenient term, but those who worked closest with him saw something else. Precision, intent, an unsettling, almost human-like awareness. Did he understand his captivity? Did he understand death?
May have started as play or frustration and clearly escalated to be very violent behavior.
The attack on Dawn wasn't over in seconds. It stretched into an eternity of horror. And in those final desperate moments, something passed between predator and prey. A chilling connection witnessed by traumatized onlookers. Something primal, unfathomable. Some called it pure rage. Others whispered, revenge. Revenge for the day he was torn from the wild waters of the North Atlantic, dragged from his pod, and condemned to a lifetime in a concrete pool. What we do know is this: SeaWorld never again allowed trainers in the water with Tilikum, but they didn't release him, didn't retire him to a sea pen, didn't stop the shows where he still performed, a lethal giant circling his tank. And as the years crawled by, chilling whispers persisted. Stories hushed in break rooms, rumors of incidents that never made headlines. Close calls meticulously scrubbed from records. How many near-fatal encounters were covered up? Could it happen again? That depends entirely on who you ask and what they're willing to admit. Yet the question still remains. Did Dawn Brancheau see it coming, or was trust her last mistake? These orcas killed those who worked with them every day, but the question remains. What went wrong in the first place? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.